Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the one and only show on the internet where we talk about all things sci-fi, fantasy, books, movies, TV, robots, dragons, swords, etc. And the only live podcast on the internet where you get more out of it if you like, subscribe, and comment. I'm Dan Selcke, the
Nice.
editor of winterscoming.net, here with Daniel Roman, the other editor of winterscoming.net. Daniel, how are you, etc., and so forth?
Uh, Dan, I am shook. I'm so ready to talk about the stuff we're gonna talk about today. I've been in a daze. I've been
Mhm.
in a I've been staring into the middle distance since Monday. Let's put it that way. Dan, how are you? How are all of you in the chat? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Data Racer, Trent Hedemer. I agree, Trent. Let's ride. So this is mainly a
Yes.
Westerosi Game of Thrones House of Dragons kind of podcast. We'll talk about other stuff too, but today we do have for you a spoiler-free, sorry, Data Racer,
Yes.
review of the next episode of House of the Dragon. Comes out on Sunday. We'll talk about other things as well, but I wanted to touch
Yeah.
on that first because we are very cool and exclusive and great. We get to see these episodes before they actually air. Thank you, HBO. HBO, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. I love you. So please keep doing that and please keep giving the episodes early. And I was
Man.
more excited than usual to talk about this upcoming one. We don't have a title yet, by the way. They've been keeping the titles to themselves because
Yeah.
Daniel,
We have a
people,
tentative one, right? We have a reported title for this one, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. I don't
you
know
seem
how
to think so. I forgot. Maybe.
It was a Dance of Dragons. Redanian
I can
intelligence
believe it.
reported on this last year. So it's been floating around for a while, but we won't know for sure till it airs. It is.
Yeah.
I wonder why they've been playing, keeping them so close to the chest. Do you have any theories?
No, I mean, they released the picks on time and early. They released the episodes to us
Yeah.
critics on time and early. So I don't know. I'm sure it makes sense to them. And anything that makes sense to them makes sense to me because I love them so much.
Exactly.
And
Precisely.
if we can talk to you and Mitchell or Time Glen Carney on the interview and get him on the show, that'd be great too. But anyway, we've seen the episode, and I want to talk about it because Daniel, if I'm being 100% real truth right now, the second season of House of the Dragon has felt I've had a kind of a trouble getting myself into it and really getting on the hype train. It's built up. I've liked each episode more than the last, but I'm just going to tell you. And again, this is
Yeah.
spoiler free, so we're not going to tell you what happens. Although you can probably figure out some
Yes.
stuff if you're like, look carefully. Um, this episode really sort of blew the back of my head off. Uh, I
Yeah.
feel like the season needed this. I feel like it ties the season together in a lot of ways. It retroactively makes some other scenes uh better, in my opinion. And it's not a secret. This is going to be a big battle episode. It's going to be the Battle of Rook's Rest. I'm not spoiling that. I feel like that's
Yes.
been deduced a
No,
long
we've
time
known that
ago.
for like a year. Yeah.
I won't tell the details, but we know Kristen Cole's on the march. We know he has an army at his back. We know he's going somewhere. And just so the most minor spoilers, the army will be used in some kind of way. Game of Thrones has a long history of these big battle episodes, from the Battle of the Bastards to the Massacre at Hardhome to Blackwater to the Loot Train Attack. And this is House of the Dragon's first swing at that. And I gotta say, I think they smash it. And I think they do what the Game of Thrones battles always did, which is add something new. I won't say what it is, but this
Yes.
doesn't feel
Yes.
like anything Game of Thrones ever did, but it still has that
Yes.
scale that we've come to expect from it. I think it's a really big success, this episode, and I'm eager to see what people think of it when it airs on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that about it adding something new. I agree with that. I really loved this episode. This is the first time this season that I watched an episode. I sat numbly on my couch for 10
It's
minutes.
a good
I
feeling.
wandered the forest staring into the middle distance for another 20 minutes and then I immediately rewatched it. Because I legitimately haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I saw it 2 days ago. Um, so we do have a question in the chat that is kind of along the lines of what you were saying. Um, from Millie Acera, which is the real question is, does it live up to the hype of episode 4 and or does it
I think
compete
so.
or equal Battle of the Bastards? Now, I tweeted about this episode yesterday or a few
Yes, you
days
did.
ago, and that's a question I've seen a lot is, does it compare to Battle of the Bastards? So I've been thinking about this because um obviously we can't talk any details, can't talk any spoilers.
Shh.
Um, but it's not a spoiler to say there is a battle. It's in the trailer or
Huh?
whatever. So what I will say about this is that battles in Game of Thrones each served a very specific purpose.
Hmm.
Some of them were like an episode long bottle episode, like the Blackwater, where it's showing the two sides and it's just focused there.
Love that.
Battle of the Bastards was like a pitched medieval battle on even terrain, and how horrifying and
Hmm.
dehumanizing that is. Hard Home was the horror of White Walkers and whites. The Long Night was a literal apocalypse. So each one of these does something different, like you said, Dan. And I think I'm just gonna call it a Dance of the Dragons with the disclaimer that that may not be the episode. Um, it may not be the final title, but that's what I think that's what it's going to end up being. Um, I think this similarly does something unique for House of the
Hmm.
Dragon, like you said, and I do think, does it compete with Battle of the Bastards? I don't really want to touch that, but I do think this is as important an episode for House of the Dragon
Yeah.
as any of those big battle episodes were for Thrones. Like this, it is obvious they bet big on this one.
Hmm.
Um, and like if you know the source material, it's obvious why they would do that. Um, so yeah, that I really loved it. And yeah, I'm not gonna talk about episode minutes, lengths, anything like that, but this is a juicy episode. There is a lot in it, is what I will
Totally.
say.
It's sometimes because House of the Dragon is like Game of Thrones, but it's different. It has its own identity. And I don't know, sometimes it's been now that the show is more like Game of Thrones and less and kind of different,
Yeah.
like season one was like skipping ahead in time. It just felt like a different show, and it is a different show. But now it feels more like Game of Thrones because we're all in one time. We
Yeah.
have different split like points of view. Um, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's come up lacking. Not all the time. I've enjoyed a lot of what they've done. You're right. You can tell they put a ton of effort into this one. They were really hinging on this to be like a linchpin, and it is. And
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't th I don't think like the comparison is it as good as Battle of the Bastards? Love the comment. I think, like I said
Yeah.
before, I think it's how can you deliver an action sequence that kind of lives up to the excitement that those kind of battles give, but also do something different with it. Because I don't want
Yes.
like just another Battle of the Bastards. I want what's the
No.
next thing, and this is the next thing. Very, very exciting. And someone
Yeah.
asked about the dialogue. Is it any good? It's been a little wooden last
Man,
week. I think the dialogue has been quite good this season, especially. I mean, it's
I
gonna
agree with that.
it goes up and down, like any TV show. Like episode 2 had some great stuff when Daemon and Rhaenyra fought. That was great. There's some great stuff in here. There's an Aemon Aegon scene that I really thought was delightful. I've been loving Aegon a lot this season. I've really been
Oh,
enjoying that.
yeah.
The
I
bit
have a
where
feeling I
like
know which one you mean.
I mean, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the one. Here's
Yeah,
here's a
yeah.
spoiler
Really
for you.
good.
I will give you this. I'll give you one minor spoiler that I'm sure it's probably I'm just gonna risk it. High
Okay. Flying
Valyrian
close to the
comes.
sun.
Oh, it's fine.
Ah,
High Valyrian returns in this episode. We got people speaking a fake fictional language,
yes.
and I get some good mileage out of it. Well, let's go over some of these comments
Yeah.
because, yes, Bushmaster. I did notice that at some point, like I had some comments on Twitter or X or whatever. It's like I tweeted like, "Oh, this is going to be the most amazing episode," and someone was like, "Who infiltrates whose castle this time?" And all 3 episodes have kind of ended with somebody sneaking into the castle to do something.
They have.
This breaks formula, which it is kind of a thrill. Like I think it's the first episode this season. Also, another spoiler, I guess. Sorry, I hope this doesn't go over the line. To not end on Alicent or Rhaenyra, so that's a sign of like the
Ah,
cast is getting
okay.
bigger. They're getting more confident in having more characters be able to hold down important scenes, which I think is a really good sign of a show that is on the grow, that has a deep bench to work with. That's important for a show like, especially a Game of Thrones prequel show.
It is.
What other kind of comments do we got here? Did Sunfire look good, or were you disappointed in his design? Asked Bloodraven. Daniel?
Yeah, again, this is not a spoiler because we see Sunfire in the trailer.
Yeah.
I was not disappointed with Sunfire's design. I thought Sunfire looked real cool. This show
good.
is just doing an amazing job with its dragons, knowing that was kind of one of their original missions, to do dragons in more unique ways than just thrones, where it was kind of like they copy pasted Drogon 3 times and then did a different color swatch. They definitely are pulling that off really, really well still into this season. So it's funny, like not even just with, well, let me ask you before I go on my tangent. What did you think? Did you like Sunfire's design, Dan?
Yeah, he looked great. I mean, if I always worry in books when they write anything as like the most blank in the world,
totally.
like the most beautiful dragon in the world. It's kind of like, how do you live up to that? He looks really good.
Yeah.
My biggest pet peeve with that is when like a Robert Jordan or some author or Andrei Sapkowski writes like, she was the prettiest, most beautiful, buxom, gorgeous woman in the world. And because my problems that are twofold, like it sounds a little fetishy.
Yeah.
And then when you adapt it, you get these like people being like, well, she's not that pretty, which that's a pet peeve of mine. Stop doing that. It sounds a little obsessive.
Thankfully,
Sunfire looks great.
Thankfully, whoever they cast as Sunfire did not need to deal with that level of internet hate of being told they were not pretty enough to be the dragon Sunfire. I hard agree with that, especially Sapkowski. It's so distracting in his books. I enjoy them, but like every female character that comes on screen or on page, he's describing by their beauty or lack thereof. I think Bushmaster, I think we should watch and find out to Bushmaster's question about sizes. I think that's one you will see
sizes
when the episode airs.
I mean, wait, no, we can answer that one. We all know that Vhagar is the biggest dragon in the world. So,
yes,
that's not a spoiler. I mean, it's been established that Vhagar is freaking huge. Yes, Vhagar is ginormous, bigger than either of those other guys. They're still big though. It's just so exciting.
Yeah,
you'll see it.
It's funny. I feel like, so again, since like posting about this, since talking to people about this, another like really common sentiment I've seen is like, don't overhype it. You're going to set expectations way too high for this. And like, honestly, I just don't think that's possible here. I don't know. Like, don't expect it to maybe change your life or anything. But at the same time, like, it's hard for me to imagine anyone with 2 eyeballs and a sense of wonder not enjoying the episode we're about to get this weekend. You know what I mean?
I think it'll go over well. Yeah. There was somebody who like saw all 4 episodes on Twitter. I forget who it was. I think it was like Tower of the Hand or something, who ranked them like episode 4 was second behind 2. And I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Madness.
Then I watched this and I'm like, I don't know. To me, this is the best season so far. And I think the other parts are good too. Malik has a really good question that I'm very happy to answer. Were there any signature House of the Dragon character accidents / misunderstandings or out of character actions that either take away from agency of the characters and make them look very stupid in this episode? And the answer is, I'm very happy to report, no. This was awfully close to the book version. There is one motivational change, but it utterly fits with the character.
Yes.
I want to spoil everything, but
no, that's as far as you should take it.
I was really excited that this episode did seem to just kind of dive in head first. I've been wanting that. I've been wanting like to them break through a wall, and it felt like they kind of did. So I was enjoying that.
Yeah, Millie, yes, Twitter is going to be very, very fun.
It'll be a good
Sunday,
time.
seeing everyone's reactions. I think it's a big episode for House of the Dragon, and I am I'm kind of curious, we've known more or less the events that, or at least the big event that is coming in episode
Sure.
4 for quite a
Oh,
while. But it is interesting. It's exciting to me that we don't really know too much about what's going to come after episode 4.
true.
Like there's really one procession scene in King's Landing that we saw behind the scenes photos for that is most likely going to be in episode 5, I would guess. But beyond that, like I think they filmed a lot of the last 3 episodes on closed sets, so we just don't really know, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm
Dre
fine with
says,
that.
"Who are your favorite characters in this episode?" Um, it's so hard.
Yeah.
I just don't want to spoil anything. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can say without any kind of spoilers, I will say, I've been loving the crap out of Aegon this season. He's my new favorite character.
Yeah,
I love how messed up he is. I love how troubled he is. I loved how he seems to earnestly want to do a good job, but he just isn't ready for it. He's too compromised. He has too many weird hangups in his head. He doesn't have experience, but he tries and he
yeah,
drinks and he's been sympathetic and he's been loathsome. And I just did a good job with him. So I really liked him a lot. But there are a bunch of others that a lot of,
yeah.
again, a lot of folks shined in this one,
This is an
which I haven't
ensemble.
always
Yeah,
seen. So it's good. And by the way,
yeah,
please don't, we're not going to spoil. I'm just trying to
nah,
not do it. Millie says, oh, they also someone pointed out that it was Voice of Old Town who ranked this episode's forward through number 2. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. That was good. And just I disagree, but I do love that account. Millie says they loved
yeah.
1, 2, 3, felt like a lot of filler episodes, and the fact that Rainey's nose was notable but super slow. Really needed it. I kind of agree. This episode is needed. It's needed, and I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
the reaction. Also, I
I
want to
like the
remind
pacing
all of
of
you
it all.
wonderful new people who are here to if you like what we're saying, we do this all the time. Go ahead and subscribe and like and comment. Why not? What do
Yeah.
you have to lose? Go on, Dan.
Yeah, I will say I it's so funny because I've seen an awful lot of the chatter of it's been slow, it's been dragging, it's been filler. I haven't minded I think the pacing has been really good for me personally. Like it's gonna like people don't be too excited to speed toward the absolute tragedy that is the vast majority of the Dance of the Dragons. Um so I've liked the pacing as a whole, but I do agree with you. What is coming this episode has been much needed. It's a big episode, and I cannot wait to see people's reactions to it. Honestly,
I feel like
yeah,
we are
Stacey,
overhyping it
I'm with
almost.
you. Nah, we're not. Okay, so what there? I feel like there was one thing I wanted to
Mhm.
hit, and this is not about the new episode. So are we good to discuss some other House of the Dragon stuff now, Dan? What do
Yes,
you think?
sure thing. I think we said all we can without spoiling it. We can't spoil it, everybody watching. We really, really liked it. You'll have to leave it at that,
Yeah,
and you'll see the rest on Sunday. What else you want to talk about, Dan?
yeah. Someone, it's down too low in my chat now to see, but someone asked, I think it was Bushmaster, what our opinion is on um the Daenerys dragon egg change.
Hmm.
So just a little bit of context here for viewers or listeners, audio listeners who may not know the deets with this. So basically in Fire and Blood, it is pretty strongly hinted that Dany's dragon eggs were stolen by a woman named Alyssa Farman
Yep.
um, during the reign of King Jaehaerys. Alyssa was having a love affair with a person named Rhaena Targaryen, not the one from House of the Dragon, a different one.
Get
And
new
basically,
names.
get new names, House Targaryen. And Alyssa, their relationship soured. Alyssa stole 3 dragon eggs to go finance building her own ship. She sold them to the Sea Lord of Bravos. They got passed around and eventually probably ended up in Illyrio Mopatis's possession in Pentos. Is kind of like the book, strongly hinted book lore. The show has changed that. So when we saw Rhaena Targaryen, different Rhaena Targaryen, House of the
Mhm.
Dragons Rhaena Targaryen, played by Phoebe Campbell,
Phoebe
take
Campbell.
Rhaenyra's 3 youngest children to the Vale. she also took 4 dragon eggs. It has been confirmed by the director of this episode, Geeta
Gita
Patel,
Patel.
that three of those eggs are Danny's. So, with that backstory out of the way, let me pitch this to you, Dan. What do you think of that? That's a pretty big change.
I don't think it's a pretty big change. I think it's kind of weak. I mean, it's fine. It's fan service. It's a little lame. It's not a. I mean, it's not a. I don't think it's a huge change. They'll disappear for decades and decades. They'll end up in Daenerys' hands eventually. I would have preferred they just stay true to the normal stuff. I don't think you got to do that, but I don't like it. But I'm fine with it, and I'm at peace.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I looked back at Fire and Blood because I didn't remember all the details of the whole Alyssa Farman story very well. And Rhaena Targaryen, the older Rhaena Targaryen, lived a hell of a life. So I feel like I don't mind this change much so long as the lore of her still living the life she had is still intact in the show somehow. And I hope it clarifies that at some point because like she was one of Maegor the Cruel's like polygamist wives who he forced to marry
Oh,
her, and then she helped
don't do
overthrow him,
that.
and then she took another husband who she fed to her dragon, and then she refused to take another husband. So like there's a whole crazy life that woman had that led to those 3 eggs getting stolen that I think in the book is so rich and so juicy. um but I obviously the fan service element, I agree with you. It does feel like we're really gonna, are we stretching this a bridge too far? But at the same time, they're never gonna do a Jaehaerys the Conciliator show. So like, I can understand the urge to be making these threads linking this show to Game of Thrones, not knowing if they'll ever even get to make other different Targaryen prequels. Even though, like,
They
let's be
don't
real,
need
they're gonna
it.
make more.
Why not save it for an Alyssa Farman show or Targaryen show? They don't need it. So just save it. So just be
Yeah,
accurate if you can. My rule is
yeah,
if you can be accurate to the source material, do it. If there's a compelling reason to change it, okay, sure. But if it's not a
yeah.
compelling enough reason, and I don't think this qualifies as a compelling enough reason, I mean, why change it?
Well, so here's my theory. I'm gonna put on book reader cap for a second. So there will be some
Okay.
spoilers for Fire and Blood here. They needed more for Rhaena Targaryen to do because Rhaena just kind of gets shipped off to the Vale in the book, and then she just kind of like doesn't do a lot until near the end of the Dance of the Dragons. Um, so we've heard rumors, and these are unsubstantiated. I don't know that they'll pan out, and I don't have a lot of
Hmm.
faith in them. But the rumbles are there that Rhaena
Hoping
may
not.
have some of the book material that a character's name Nettles had in the
Uh-huh.
book. I hate this. I hope it doesn't happen. But basically that she would try to endear herself to a dragon in the Vale by feeding it sheep, which is like Nettle's whole backstory. I don't know that they're going to go that route, but I think having Rhaena get the eggs and knowing the eggs will eventually go missing because they have to end up with Illyrio somehow. Um,
Uh-huh.
there is a big ship related thing that has to do with the gullet, that some of Rhaenyra's kids are mixed up in the book. I'm trying to say this as unspoilery as possible. I don't remember exactly how much Rhaena is involved in that, but I have a feeling they're going to make
Not.
Rhaena and the eggs a much more central part of it, where we could see the eggs go missing during that, and then one of the free cities are also involved in this, and then that could be how they end up over in Pentos or
Listen,
Bravos, um,
Reyna,
which would make it a whole big plot line instead of just an Easter
mhm.
egg.
Reyna brings 3 eggs into the book, so they can't be Daenerys's eggs. No matter how big of a plot point this becomes, it's still a plot point based around a prop that won't be important for over 100 years after the show is done.
Yeah,
It cannot be emotionally significant in any other way than, ooh, it's that thing from that other show that I liked. That's not
yeah,
development. That's bad.
yeah,
If you want to give Reyna more to do, you explore who she is and what her decisions and thoughts do for this story. Like when you do that, I mean, I never watched Solo, a Star Wars story. But I remember like folk were making fun of the way that movie would kind of like make a big deal out of, I don't know, he like got Han Solo's jacket or blaster or some stupid
Yes.
incidental prop that like people remember. Like that's doesn't help you for this thing you're doing. Like you need to do something for this story. Although I will say, I think they're getting
Yes.
mileage out of the whole like Song of Ice and Fire, Aegon's dream thing, because it is a new sort of thing and it
Yeah,
does help the
yeah.
characters motivate. But this, I don't see it. So I think it's
Well,
I'm not plus I'm just it's whatever. It's lame. It's dumb. They shouldn't have done it, but it's fine.
I think it's early days too. I like that's my gut reaction now too, but also I am like I have to see what they're going to do with it because I do think the idea of Rhaena being like carrying the hope of House Targaryen, aka these eggs that are going to eventually end up with Dany, that does also kind of fit thematically with Rhaena's own stuff with her own dragon, which, like, again, this is a book spoiler, but there's a dragon named Morning who's essentially represents that for House Targaryen by the end of the dance. Um, there's an interesting thematic parallel there, but yeah, it's definitely a jury is out. Jury's very hard out
This
on the
jury's
whole
in.
Rhaena
I
Tart.
pronounced the show guilty.
All right, Dan's
It's
jury.
guilty. Yeah.
Okay, fair.
But yeah, that's that. Okay. We'll move on in a second. But Urtek has a question. We've seen it before. We have. What's the first word you guys murmured by yourself as soon as the credits started to roll? Thank you. I think I murmured Jesus tap dancing Christ. Hot damn. How about you, Daniel?
Swearing here, I definitely went, holy fuck, that was insane. As soon as the episode ended, I very vividly remember it. So yeah, it's a
It's
good
good.
one. It's a good
You're
one.
all
Yeah.
going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than this, I know that other Game of Thrones House of Dragony things, I know they're going forward on A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. That's in the works. They're making that. That's about
Oh,
it.
wait. Can I answer
Yeah.
one super quick
Of course you
question before we
can.
carry on? Leo said those
Yeah.
dragons really lasted all those centuries and still hadn't hatched. Make it make sense. So that is from the lore of Fire and Blood, and the eggs are actually older in Fire and Blood, and they basically say if they take them away from like the heat of volcanoes on Dragonstone, or they're in a place where they're not getting the proper amount of heat, they'll probably turn to stone. Dany's eggs are stone when she first gets them. So we have an answer for that one.
And I'll give you a more condescending answer. When it's a fictional animal, I don't know. That's how dragon eggs work.
Yeah.
They're not real.
Fair.
So I guess dragon eggs in this world, they're made up. Their eggs can calcify and then hatch later.
Yeah.
I guess
there
would
you
be
go.
my response to that.
Magic.
Sorry if that was sniping and caddying bad. All right, Daniel, let's move on to some other things
Yes.
beyond House of the Dragon, because there are
Let's
some other
do
things
it.
happening in the world of TV movies, film,
A few.
books, sci-fi fantasy. Actually,
One or two.
we're kind of in quite a good era of TV right now. We were in this huge push earlier this year when there was like Fallout and Three Body Problem and Shogun on. And now we are blessed to be watching House of the Dragon, The Boys, and Interview with the Vampire.
Boys is
which
so
just
good.
wrapped up.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'll spoil this too. I saw the end. I watched the rest of this season of The Boys. I think so. This was last week too. Whatever.
Oh,
I think folk will be very happy with the finals, with the final episodes of The Boys season 4 too. That also wrapped up very nicely.
I've been really enjoying The
that.
Boys this season.
Yeah, it's been
Can't wait. Can't wait
also,
for
the
the next
Acolyte.
one.
The Acolyte's on to show us how bad it could be. Interview with the Vampire has been
harsh.
It's been a pitched year. If I had to say Interview with the Vampire or Shogun are my favorite shows of the year so far, Interview with the Vampire wrapped up its second season this past Sunday, and again, made me want to dye my face like ghost white, apply black eyeliner, put in fake fangs, and like get Anne Rice books, wear like a black Liberace costume and lounge and by candlelight reading novels. It was so good. It is so suffused with kind of gore, moody, baroque sort of excess, and also incredibly romantic. Like this show about
Yeah.
vampires tearing the necks out of human beings ends up being a love story in the true sense of the word, and a really affecting one. Like they really, I feel like a lot of
Ooh,
love stories
okay.
these days are very, I don't know, they're written by modern people who are a sense of irony and kind of distance. Like this show really embraces the idea that love can take over your body and mind and make you do crazy things and make it make sense, as Leo put it, and really sell me in the idea these people are madly, dangerously, unhealthily in love with each other. It really is a story about love and also vampires. I loved this show. I loved it a lot. Jacob
Yeah.
Anderson as Louis, a vampire, Grey Worm from Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, knocking it out of the park. And I want to
Sick.
see more. But Bradley, this show convinced me, and I know our boss Natalie, to go and buy some Anne Rice books I've never read. So I am now
Yeah.
officially a Vampire
Enjoy.
Chronicles convert. I'm going to read the Vampire Stock because I loved this show so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. I still need to watch Interview with the Vampire. We talked about this last week, but mainly because I don't have AMC Plus. So when it comes to Netflix, I will watch it. Maybe one day I will subscribe for a month because I do really want to see it. And it does sound like they really did it justice. The book has been around since the 80s, and like
70s.
it's interest 70s. Okay.
Yep.
It's been around a while. Yeah. So but it's almost kind of funny to me because, it's great hearing you talk about it as a love story because obviously it is. But I don't think that before this iteration of it, that would be the
Hmm.
first way people would describe
I
this story.
agree.
Uh, the movie, which is also faithful to the book in its own way. Like they've both got
Yeah,
their, the
I like the
book.
movie.
The movie is not bad. By Anne Rice was kind of famously against some of the choices of the movie, like
Oh yeah?
casting Tom Cruise. Yeah, she was super against Tom Cruise as Lestat, and then she saw him as Lestat and was just like, I was wrong. He's perfect.
Yeah, Brad Pitt's the one who sucked.
So yeah, which I mean, Brad Pitt, he brought,
He was fine. I'm sorry. Just
Louis is a mopey character in the book, and it seems like Jacob Anderson's Louis is a much meatier character than either
I
like
would say
OG book
yes.
Louis or the movie one. So
I do
yeah,
like Kirsten Dunst's Claudia more than
oh
Delaney
yeah,
Hayes' Claudia in season two. It's very different, just because they had to cast like an older actor in order to like have them work all these hours, is my guess. And there's just something
yeah,
so creepy about like a literal 9-year-old doing these things that you do
yes,
kind of lose a bit when she's like 15.
yeah.
I liked her a lot though. And I mean, and believe me, and like and toward the end, they really hammer home the emotional high points and it really, really works. And I know they couldn't actually do it with a 9-year-old to like go that hard that long. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know that there is there's just something unavoidably unsettling about the original. Like she's a literal
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really fair. It's kind of like the trade-off of, you're going to get an actress like Delaney Hayes who can work longer hours,
very,
do
very good.
crazier scenes, and maybe stretch her acting chops in even more insane ways. But like you said, you lose they got that lightning in a bottle with Kirsten Dunst
Yeah.
of we found an actual very small child. Because like Claudia's whole thing is here's an immortal being in a body that looks like barely bigger than a toddler, like a 10-year-old. And how
Hmm.
unsettling is that? So they actually managed to find a young actress who could pull that off with
Yeah,
Kirsten
not easy.
Dunst. But
Light in a bottle. You're
yeah,
right.
not
But I will
yeah,
say the actress Lady Haynes is very, 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 very good, and I really liked her.
that's awesome.
The whole show was great. I agree with everybody in here. Velocity says it kept
Yeah.
ramping up, and the finale actually paid off. There was mythology stuff that I'm interested in. There was kind of climactic things in the story to the love story, to the kind of
Yeah.
winding backroom, like narrative switching they kept doing that really paid off. There was just
It sounds
the
like they really
good old
nailed the
fashioned, like well,
The
Armand, I
Armand
mean,
betrayal.
I don't want to get into it too deeply because we don't have all the time
Okay.
in the world. Every character was very, very well serviced, and it worked on a lot of different levels. I loved the finale. I love the season. I love the
Cool.
show, and I want more, and I can't wait for more. And yeah, I'm going to read some Anne Rice books now, and then I'm going to go
Hell
to
yeah.
my parents' house, and I'm going to be in goth makeup, and they're gonna tell me come to dinner, and I'm gonna be like, no, a vampire. I'll go live that teenage fantasy that I missed out on the first time.
Nice. I'm happy for you. I hope it brings you much joy, but not too much joy because you're supposed to be melancholy. Um, yes. So interview, you have anything else you want to say about
I
interview?
think it's
Because you've
about
been
it. I
loving it.
love it. If you haven't watched it, I
Okay,
really, really recommend it. It's coming to Netflix at some point.
cool.
We're not sure when.
Yes. Yeah. And here's a funny thing I learned that I thought you might appreciate, Dan, because
Uh-huh.
you know me. I always stand
Got
for the
glasses.
little show that could, named Black Sails. I found out that one of the writers from Black Sails worked on Interview with the Vampire season 2. So there are
Alright.
probably some similar DNA things there because yeah, Black Sails. I some of the things you've said
Do
about
you know which
Interview
one?
make me think uh the very do which writer?
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head, but I can find it if you want to tell us what else you've
It's
been watching.
it's it's not that. Okay, what else are we watching? Our next section. What are we watching? What are you watching? Please tell us in the comments. We'd love to know. Because I have somehow found time for things other than Interview with the Vampire, The Boys, and House of the Dragon. The big thing I started, well, okay, I'll say I am still watching The Acolyte, and it's just I mean it's just not really working. It's just too
Did you watch the new one?
thin. I did. Yeah, I watched the new one. They're easy to watch. They're like a half hour at most. It's just a little too thin. There's just not enough meat to it. The main characters, the Osha and May, seem to like switch motivations every episode. There's not like much to grab onto of like interesting characters to really want to follow. It just doesn't work. There's 2 episodes left. We're like 6 out of 8 done, and they still haven't found like a really compelling through line. Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens. Not every show could be a
All
hit.
right. So the Acolyte, I thought the last episode, so the sixth episode was, I think it's like the most interesting the show has been. It still has issues. I'm still
One of the better
borderline
ones.
hate watching it at times, but I do think it was one of the better episodes of the
I
show.
agree.
It's the most I've liked Osha in the show, like full
Yeah.
stop throughout the show. But it is interesting because even though it's the most I've liked Osha, it's also the least I've liked May in terms of like the writing of May in those
Dude,
scenes,
they
which
can't get a
to
handle
me
on that
does
one.
it does to me say there is something about the handle of the characters not being quite on that, whichever whichever version of Amanda Stenberg is acting with the Sith characters is just better than whichever version of Amanda Stenberg is acting with the Jedi characters. And that is not you know, that doesn't scream intentional to me. That screams there's something not quite clicking that is the case. Because it's not just like
I
Osha
agree.
sucks and May's cool. It's whichever one happens to be in whichever place is more interesting. Um,
I agree.
Manny Jacinto, who
He's been
plays
good.
he's great. He plays the villain, Kamir / the Stranger, who may be related to the Knights
Ranger.
of Ren somehow, rather than just a straight Sith.
Super.
Super. I know you cared a lot about that. Yeah, I think he is killing it. He's probably like the main draw for watching for me right now. And I did rewatch the big lightsaber fight episode, and I do think the actual choreography of that episode was probably some of the best lightsaber stuff since the prequels. That was really cool. But yeah, the Acolyte, like you said, Dan, we have 2 more episodes left. It's still kind of mid for me. I appreciate that they're trying to do something different instead of just like, let's do solo, like let's find some tangential thing related to the Skywalker saga and do it. Like, fine, I'll give you like the credit that you're at least trying to make a totally new story, but yeah, it is not quite landing for me either. Next week is a
Mm.
flashback too, right? Did you know
No, I do
that?
not. No. Great. The went
I
well the
read
first
that.
time.
Yeah, the directors they had so they shoot in blocks, so one director does 2 episodes. They
Uh-huh.
had the same director for episode 3, which was the first flashback, and episode 7. So it's kind of like widely being assumed it's going to be another flashback episode next week because the pacing,
Okay.
who needs pacing? The pacing has
Not
been
us.
really making it hard for me,
Rough.
honestly.
Oh yeah. As Data Racer says, I need to get Andor season 2, phenomenal show. Andor is like the Star
Yeah.
Wars show that proves that it doesn't have to be like this. Like, obviously, these folk are capable of making a good Star Wars show. So why are we getting things
Yeah,
like this? They like we're kind of getting a little off track. I love getting off track. Disney was
it's
in
great.
this period where they were just shotgunning Star Wars and Marvel shows like crazy
Yes. It's a
before
Disney problem.
Chapek was out and the former CEO Bob Iger came back in and he said we got to slow this down. I feel like the Acolyte
Mhm.
is kind of a project greenlit at the tail end of Disney's machine gun period, and that
Yes.
hopefully things will even out going forward. But we'll see. I also want to say really quickly,
Yeah, I
I
think
oh go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think you're right. I think Acolyte and Skeleton Crew are kind of the end of that regime's green lighting spree. So I think after
Right.
Skeleton Crew, it's going to be interesting to see what they do next in terms of new things.
Good about it. I also wanted to say, and folk out there are watching Dark Matter, which I've heard a lot of good things about. So I might have to check that out. Trade King
Same.
Evil, Long Running Things, The Lazarus Project, Robert Harris, always fun. Leo's watching My Adventures with Superman. I'm actually watching that one too. I have a weakness. My guilty pleasure has always been animated DC shows. I'm watching them well into my 30s.
Hey,
They're always
no
fun.
shame.
What? Stop judging me. No, there's a little bit of shame, but mostly it's been a fun time. I also started up Severance on Apple TV Plus, which I think you really
Yeah,
loved,
nice.
if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I
Um,
enjoyed it.
yeah, that show with Adam Scott, where your consciousness is split between your work life and your home life, and you don't remember anything. And when you're out of work, you don't remember anything you did at work. And when you're at work, you don't remember anything you do at home. And it's a cool little sci-fi twist. Got some humor in there. Ben Stiller is directing it for some reason. So it's a good, eerie, intriguing balancing act. And I'm about like a few episodes in, really liking it so far. So I'll keep up with that
Cool.
as well.
Cool,
Any other
cool.
thing you want to mention before we move on to the WiC News Lightning Round
What else have I been watching? Those are probably
or
the big
reading?
things. Or reading. I'm still reading Mirrored Heavens,
Hmm.
which is the third book in Rebecca Roanhorse's Mesoamerican fantasy series Between Earth and Sky. It's still really excellent. I've just been going a little slower than usual because it's House of the Dragon season and we got
True.
dragons to be watching. Um, but that's those books, God, they're so freaking cool. So I just need to shout this out for our House of the Dragon stands. One of the main characters of that show has such a vibe that reminds me of like Aemond a little bit.
Ooh,
His
fun.
name is Serapio. He's a blind priest who serves this crow god, and he has a very dark, like destiny that's kind of foisted upon him, and he's trained to fulfill it from the time he's like a little kid. He never had a chance at a normal life. He's blind because I think his mom, if I remember right, literally sewed his eyes shut as part of this. So
Don't do
like
that.
it's yeah, very dark, but like he's got like a sort of quiet stillness and poise that it just really reminds me of Aemond, or if you've played Warcraft, like Illidan, Storm Rage, like that type of
Yeah,
character.
we're good.
Even though Illidan's, he's not, he shouts and stuff quite a lot. He's not quite as quiet and poised as Aemond, but
Okay.
Serapio is. So there's my rec there. Uh,
Very cool.
the one other thing that I need to tell you about, Dan, and anyone who's listening who maybe likes video games, I've been playing Elden Ring because the new DLC
Ooh,
just dropped.
my partner's
I
been
am not
playing it.
playing the
Yeah.
DLC. Oh, have they? Enjoying
Yeah.
it?
Yes. I'm watching it. I don't want to play it because I beat that game completely and I sunk way too many hours of my life into it. And I guess I liked
Yeah,
it, but I also was tortured by it. So just gonna watch this one
fair.
I'm not I'm done. I respect it and appreciate it, but I think I'm done.
Yeah, I think that's real fair. So let me tell you my stupidity that I realized after the fact. I booted up Elden Ring for the first time since I beat it, because similarly to you, I enjoyed it. I sunk a lot of hours in the post game, exploring the world and getting all the little things. And then I forgot that the very last thing that I did in Elden Ring as a like level 200 character was I started New Game Plus,
Good for
which
you.
means that I can't access the DLC until I go all the way back to Moog, who's this boss that's like 2/3 of the way through the game, unless you speed run it in some crazy way. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm at the beginning, whether I like it or not, and the lands between is always a good
You
time.
need to go look up a YouTuber named Carbot who has been doing for
Okay.
like years now these like minute long animations of Elden Ring, of like little funny, cute
Ooh,
videos
okay.
about just like how hard it is and how terrible it is and how funny that is to watch. And listen to
Oh,
this.
I think I've seen some
Carbot,
of
look at
them.
those. They're really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple
Yeah.
quick comments before we wrap up. Poker gave up the game a long time ago. Betrayed King says that Severance is a Twilight Zone episode stretched into a miniseries. Maybe, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's
I
such a
can
bad
kind of see
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. More Twilight Zone.
Laura asks us who wrote the fourth episode of House of the Dragon. I don't think I can say that. No, no, can't say it. That's
I
too
don't
far over the
think
line.
so either. Yeah, I don't
Also,
think
I
they've
want to say
actually confirmed it.
before we move on that there's word that the third season of House of the Dragon is getting its ducks in a row to film in Cáceres, Spain, possibly early next
Nice.
year, which could mean that other things are filmed earlier, like late this year. The sooner the better.
Yeah.
They know they have another of the Seven Kingdoms lined up to fill the gap. But I'm just going to say what I've been saying for a long time. Whatever studio is able to find a way to get new seasons of these giant tentpole fantasy, sci-fi, special effects dramas out every year will win. What do they win? I don't know. You
Yes.
find out, but they'll win.
It's insane that that has become the you will win if you can do this. And I so agree with you, because like I think you wrote this report today and I could only just like groan and be like, what are we doing here? That Wednesday season 2
Three
is in
years.
production right now,
Three
and it's gonna end
years.
up being like 3 years between the first and second season. And it's that's like, that's the distance between George R. Lucas, George Lucas, like Star Wars movies, like the prequel trilogy. Those are 3 years apart. Like
Okay.
doing that for seasons of television is unhinged. Um, Especially for
Mm.
shows like that, like Bridgerton's another one. They're getting 2 years between seasons. Like
Stranger
it's
Things.
just
Yeah.
Stranger Things, yeah, they're taking a long time. That's one of the few where I don't mind it, because one, they're on their last season, take a little extra time. But they're also like Stranger Things to me is almost towing the line format wise, where it's not quite your usual television show. They have movie length episodes at this point, some of them, like
Good.
literally movie length. So they're like almost somewhere in between television and movies in terms of format. So like it's funny because like I saw a
Everything
tweet
is now.
recently that was like, did Stranger Things ruin television as
A
we know
little.
it? I mean, not really though, because this stuff
Game
was
of Thrones
happening
did.
before
Yeah.
Stranger Things. Yeah, I think did it though? Because Game of
Yeah.
Thrones was a year apart. And then
Until
yeah,
the
it
end.
it probably, yeah, until the end. And I hate to shade it. I hate to shade it. But
Go ahead.
Westworld was the first show that I recall, that was one of these big genre shows that was just like out of the gate, like we're gonna do 2 years between seasons because we need it because our show is so big and complicated. And now all the shows
Oh
are saying
yeah.
that.
And it turned
And
out
there's
so well
truth
for
to
them.
it. Well, this is what you were saying about the studio that figures out how to do it yearly will benefit, because even though Westworld's quality dipped, I do think 2 years between seasons plus that quality dip is kind of what did in for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, it might have gone pretty differently for Westworld if they had actually been able to keep viewer interest by doing a season every year, or not,
Studios.
because it got real weird.
You are making TV. You are not making movies. If you want to make a
Yes.
movie, go make a movie. Stop doing this to TV. It's going to bite you in the
Yes.
ass sooner or later, probably sooner. Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we hit the WiC News Lightning Round?
Yeah, I'll just say Nicole is right too. Outlander's bad with it also. They were one of the original offenders along with Westworld. But yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Where we go through a bunch of stories we didn't have time to hit in the main body of the show and give our 20-second
Believe it or
opinions.
not.
Yeah, a lot happens. As usual, no order. I'll go ahead and ask you first. Why not? Because why not? Hey,
Ooh,
Daniel,
okay.
here's a picture of David Corn Sweat as Superman on the set of the new film Superman going,
I think that's fun. I'm glad they're filming. It's kind of hilarious to see behind the scenes and just think about the fact that audio
know, right?
listeners, he's punching into the air as he's taking off, and it's like on set, like he just like hopped. But
It's
yeah,
funny.
no, cool. Carry on, Superman.
Yeah.
Sweet. My take was so concise that the buzzer must have broken
What we like.
or not. Buzzer heard me coming to shade it, and producer Richard said, "Not on my watch." All right, Dan. Bump, bump, ba bump, ba 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 bump. One Piece. That's the One Piece song. One Piece
Okay.
season 2 has started production.
I was like, we were thinking like the minute he walked in the joint. Bah. All right. One Piece production. That's another show that is taking forever to make. Came out last year. Probably won't be out until next year at minimum. Probably next year. Miracle show. Good live adaptation of a manga. Doesn't happen very often. So kudos to them. Kudos for pirates. Kudos for ships. Kudos for optimism and dreams and stretchy arms. All right, Daniel.
Yes.
Here's a good one. Speaking of Elden Ring, which just brought it up for some reason, George R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones, The Song of Fire, and also did the world building for Elden Ring, ostentatiously denies, without being asked, that there is a Elden Ring movie or TV show coming. He was like, "Nope, don't know anything. Nope, 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 nope." I'm like, no, but what do you think?
Look, Martin is in his sunset years. He's been working the TV and book game for ages. He wants to crack cryptic hints about whatever he pleases. I do think this was hilarious because like Miyazaki, the game studio director, was just like, we'd have to have a really good partner to want to do an adaptation. And then Martin was like, is there an adaptation? I don't know. Do you know? Maybe, maybe not. I think that's funny. Yeah. Funny. Full stop. Here's a slightly cringier, a much cringier story, but we're gonna talk about it because that's what we do. 20 seconds. Give us your sensitive 20-second take. So the Umbrella Academy showrunner Steve Blackman has apparently been accused of creating a toxic work environment.
Yeah, it was a Rolling Stone piece drawn from like a 2023 HR complaint about him like taking credit for writers' work, about him like firing writers on maternity leave, and making some lewd comments. They've pushed back, said it's all exaggerated from like disgruntled ex-employees. My sense is it's probably not a big enough scandal to really derail his career. I'm not sure if it'll go over that line to like the worst of Joss Whedon thing, but maybe we'll see. Umbrella Academy season 4 comes out very soon. Daniel, the new A Quiet Place movie, Day One, opens and sets a domestic box office record for the franchise.
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy for that franchise. This one has, I think, Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't seen these movies, but I think it's aliens. You have to be real quiet. Some kind of monsters. They'll eat you if you're loud or you have toddlers. But I've heard that the new one is very, very, very good. So I'm really happy that it's doing well for the franchise.
Cool.
Speaking of movies, doing real good because cinema's not dead. Inside Out 2 is apparently the first movie of 2024 to earn $1 billion.
Yeah, it's nice. Cinema isn't dead, and that's been kind of going back and forth for a while, but with the right things, you can have a giant hit. I just like seeing a movie, apparently a good movie, do this well. I think last year we had
Yeah.
Barbie and Mario get over $1 billion, and Oppenheimer came this close. This year, Inside Out 2, I'm gonna guess Wolverine and Deadpool will hit that benchmark. So yeah, go
Probably.
movies. Good for you, movies.
Man, can I just interject? If Wolverine and Deadpool hits that benchmark, that's going to be a really big deal, I feel like, because it's an R-rated movie. And you don't see that.
Oh,
I don't know if we've
right.
ever had an R-rated movie do that. I'd have to look at
Joker.
numbers.
Joker did it.
Joker?
Mhm.
Well, I didn't see that movie, so there you go. But
Oh,
apparently
wow. Give
enough
a
people did
slow
that.
clap for Daniel. Didn't see Joker. Good for you.
Take
All
that,
right.
Joaquin. No, I love you, Joaquin.
All right. Warner Bros. Discovery has put a Denis Villeneuve, the director of the Dune movies, a new movie from him on the schedule for 2026. Are they giving us a signal that Dune Part 3 is on the way?
Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus. It seems like that could be the case, that Warner Brothers Discovery is pushing for 2026 release for Dune Part 3. If that does pan out, I hope that Denis Villeneuve is happy about it, because I know he had said pretty publicly he just wanted to not be in the desert for a little while and maybe make something small and unambitious before Dune Part 3.
Enjoy your
But
3 months off.
yeah, I hope you get a good time on that vacation. I lost my train of thought. There's something flying outside the window. All right. The final, my window, Dan, not your window. That hopefully, is it a Quiet Place monster? Do they have wings? We'll never know. So this is interesting. This is some on the ground investigating from you here, I think.
I just noticed
So
this.
every official I'm curious. Yeah, tell us your 20-second thoughts about this. Every official trailer or video about The Rings of Power Season 2 that you could find apparently has vastly more dislikes than likes.
I just noticed like the trailer had like way more dislikes than likes. And I thought, is that everywhere? And look at like the trailer released on through like other official channels like Amazon New Zealand or whatever. And then like behind the scenes of season 2, also way more dislikes. And I'm like, are they in trouble? Is this a sign of things to come? It's hard to separate like what's true on the internet isn't the same as what's true in real life. But the internet doesn't
Yes.
like it. And that is our show. This has been Take the Black. We're here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. CST. Also, we're also live every Sunday immediately after each new episode of House of the Dragon. Come join us on Wednesdays. Come join us on Sundays. Subscribe to us, like us, comment. You guys got that part covered. We love talking with you. We love sharing our insights. We love discussing all things sci-fi, fantasy, movies, TV, books, and so forth. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being, and we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.
Take care, y'all.